Story 1. My new manager told me I had to post in the team chat, so I did. The problem, he never specified which language. I've been working remotely for almost 6 years. Recently, I joined a new company, and I got stuck with a freshly promoted team lead. You know the type. Someone gets a little bit of power and suddenly they want to control everything. Yeah, that was him. My job is 100% client-facing. My team lead isn't even in those meetings. So honestly, I had very little reason to talk to him. I only dropped messages in the team chat when it was absolutely necessary or if someone tagged me. Then came my third monthly review. My client numbers were perfect, flawless, but he lowered my score. Why? Because I wasn't active enough in the team chat, according to him saying good morning was now mandatory, a requirement for team spirit. I pointed out that this wasn't in my performance metrics. It had never been. In 6 years of remote work, nobody had ever cared if I spammed hello gifs. His response was simple. As long as you're on my team, you must post at least a hi or a bye. Fine, he wanted me to post, so I did. From that day forward, I greeted the team every single morning, and I said goodbye every single evening. But I did it in a different language each day. Monday was Korean, Tuesday, Spanish, Wednesday, Greek. You get the idea. At first, my lead thought it was funny, a cute little joke. Then the whole team started joining in. They were all using Google Translate. Things got weird, fast. The translations weren't always accurate. Some of the messages even triggered the company's automated content filters. Real quick, if you're here for the chaos that comes from following the rules too perfectly, hit that subscribe button. You're in the right place. Eventually, the general manager noticed. That's my lead's boss. He wanted to know what on earth was going on in our chat. Suddenly, Mr. Team Spirit wasn't laughing anymore. He sent me a direct message, practically begging, please just say hi in English, or else I'll have to escalate this to the GM. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm still greeting everyone in whatever language I feel like that morning, and I'm still waiting for that call from the general manager. Story 2. I told him he couldn't plant sunflowers. He went and planted something even dumber. A couple years back, a client walks into my law office. He slaps a contract from his homeowners association down on my desk. Before I even read it, I ask him what's wrong. He just looks at me and says, they're making me dig up my sunflowers. This guy had planted an entire row of massive sunflowers, 5 feet tall, lining the whole front of his house. The HOA told him they were banned, forbidden by the contract. He wanted me to find out if it was true. I warned him right away. Be careful, I said. This could take hours, and lawyer hours are expensive. Your sunflowers could turn into solid gold sunflowers real quick. He didn't care. He just slammed his fist on the table. This is America. I have the right to plant sunflowers, dang it. So I took his money and started digging through the contract. And sure enough, there it was, a ridiculously long list of plants you could and couldn't grow. Apples, bananas, cauliflower, dill, and yes, sunflowers were on the ban list. But here's where it got funny. They forgot to list corn. Here's a little legal secret. If a contract is written by lazy lawyers, it leaves loopholes. They create these bloated lists of forbidden items to charge more billable hours, and if something isn't on the list, it's fair game. So I had to break the bad news. Yep, no sunflowers, I told him, but whoever wrote this contract scammed your HOA. It's garbage. They forgot to ban corn. Technically, you could plant corn all day long. I thought he'd be upset. Instead, a huge grin spread across his face. A couple weeks later, he shows up at my office with a photo. His entire yard was lined with giant corn stalks. It looked like a farm. When the HOA came knocking, he just shrugged. Sorry, rules are rules. The contract says no sunflowers, but corn is fine. Enjoy the maize, folks. Eventually, after some very heated talks, the HOA caved. They agreed to let him have his sunflowers back. All he had to do was get rid of the corn. Now his house is surrounded by a fortress of beautiful, giant sunflowers. And yes, he's still my client. Story 3. My boss publicly embarrassed herself, and it was all thanks to me. Right after college, I got a job as a recruiter. My manager was a hardcore micromanager. She wanted to control everything. She insisted on reviewing every single email we wrote. She demanded to be CC'd on every message that left our drafts. One day, a coworker got some positive feedback from a client about an email he'd written. Our boss immediately hit reply all. She claimed all the credit. She announced that she personally supervised every single outgoing email to ensure its quality. At the next team meeting, she doubled down. All praise should come to me, she said. I proofread everything before it goes out. Here's the funny part. The woman couldn't write to save her life. Her grammar was shaky. Her punctuation was a disaster. I often caught huge mistakes in her own writing, but I just stayed quiet. I waited. Then the perfect storm arrived. I drafted an email to a very important client, the kind who invests a lot of money in our agency. In the email, I described how a candidate was a great fit for the role because of their previous experience. Miss Micromanager came to my desk. Everything looks fine, she said, but change previous experience to past experience. I explained to her that this was grammatically incorrect in this context. She wouldn't hear it. She insisted, claiming she knew the difference perfectly. I wasn't in the mood to fight, so I did exactly what she said. I changed the words, and as always, I CC'd her on the email. The client replied a few hours later. He politely corrected us. He said that, as someone hiring people to work with written materials, he felt he should point out the proper term was previous experience. That's when I activated my plan. I hit reply all. I thanked the client for his correction and explained that my manager really valued direct feedback. I made sure to add that it was she who insisted on using the term past experience, since she personally checks every single email before it's sent. The very next day, she announced she no longer wanted to review our emails, and she asked us to stop CCing her. Story 4. This chauvinist idiot thought a woman couldn't fix computers. He ended up in jail. This was back in 2006. I worked at a big retail store with an IT help desk. People brought in their broken computers for repair. The store was in Georgia, right across the bridge from Alabama. That location matters. We got a lot of military customers from the nearby base. Most were great people, but some others, let's just say they weren't too friendly towards certain genders or skin colors. I'm a woman, about 5'4", maybe 120 pounds, and I was one of the top techs on the team. When the new hires got stuck, they came to me. Our team was amazing. The managers were great. It was one of the best jobs I ever had. Then one day he walked in. Let's call him Joe. Alcohol on his breath, worn-out jeans, a Confederate flag cap. He looked rough. I try not to judge people by appearances, but with Joe, the red flags were flying. He plopped a desktop computer on the counter like it was a grenade. I need this fixed. I smiled politely. Sure, sir, let me just take a look and I'll tell you what we can do. Joe cut me off, his eyes narrowing into a glare. Nope, ain't letting some chick touch my computer. Call the manager. Bingo, that was it. The switch flipped. Malicious compliance mode engaged. I put on my sweetest voice. Of course, sir, I'll get someone for you right now. I walked into the back room. My department lead, Mike, was working on a repair. Mike was a gentle giant, nearly 7 feet tall, 300 pounds. I walked over with a sneaky grin. Hey, Mike, client's asking for you. Mike's face lit up. He loved helping customers. He walked out to the counter. And Joe absolutely lost his mind. This guy went on a tirade I will never, ever forget, spitting, screaming. He used every offensive term for every group of people you can imagine. Security tried to calm him down, but our guards were also black. That just made Joe even angrier. He started making threats. Finally, the police were called. 2 black officers arrived. By this point, the general manager and I were basically the only white people in the area besides Joe. We just stood there and watched him get cuffed, still screaming like a maniac. It was the best moment of my week. Justice served. Story 5. My neighbor tried to use city inspectors as a weapon against me. It backfired beautifully. The woman who lived behind my house was a walking, talking, boss-level headache. I figured that out the day I moved in. We closed on the house in December. By spring, she was at my door, demanding I spend $10,000 to build a new drainage system. Why? So rainwater wouldn't flow into her yard. Here's the thing, my property has been slightly higher than hers for over 60 years. It's just how the land is. I politely refused. I told her if she wanted it that badly, she could pay for it herself. She did not like that answer. A few weeks later, a city inspector showed up. A complaint about my outdoor light not having a protective cover. It was awkward. We had guests over, but the inspector just rolled his eyes. He said everyone in the city knew about her. He told me not to worry, just fix it when I could. No fines, no drama. A week later, another complaint. This time about a small party we threw for my father-in-law's 80th birthday. We had one small speaker playing music. The same inspector called me. "Guess who?" he said. He told me not to worry but gave me a little tip. He said if I ever wanted to avoid problems during a party, I should apply for a noise permit ahead of time. So when I overheard her on the phone a month later, inviting people to a big barbecue, giving the exact date and time, guess what I did? Monday morning, I went straight to City Hall. I filed for a noise permit for that exact day, and that exact time it was approved. The evening of her party, her guests started to arrive, and I cranked up my speakers. I played the most annoying music I could think of. Obscure Greek church hymns from the 1900s. My grandparents used to blast them. I knew exactly how terrible they sounded at full volume. Within minutes, she was pounding on my door, spamming my doorbell like a video game, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. My wife and I were already at a bar down the street enjoying a nice, quiet drink. She filed another complaint, of course. The same inspector showed up. He informed her that I had a valid permit, and there was absolutely nothing she could do about it. Sometimes, malicious compliance tastes sweeter than barbecue. Story 6. If I can't drink at this bar, then neither can my 20 closest friends. When I was about 25, I worked as a waiter. The pay was good, the crew was great. After our shifts, a few of us would always grab a cold beer at the bar. It was easy. We were already there. We tipped well and never caused any trouble. Then one day, the owner just decided, no more. Staff were no longer allowed to drink at their own bar. I get it, it's a normal rule in a lot of places. He was allowed to make it, but the timing was so random. I asked my manager if something happened. He just shrugged. Nope, the boss is just on a power trip. No reason, just because he can. Okay, fine, his bar, his rules, but he wasn't prepared for what I called the Thursday effect. See, my friends were in a local band. Thursday was their rehearsal night. After they finished, they'd swing by the restaurant to hang out and drink with me at the bar. They'd bring girlfriends, other friends, random people they met. They turned our dead Thursday night into a mini Friday, and these guys could drink. The tips were massive. So when I told them the new rule, they were just as mad as I was. My buddy Bob looked at me. Wait, so we have to leave here, go somewhere else and wait for you to get off work? He shook his head. No way, we'll just all go to the other bar right now. You can meet us there. It was logical, and the other bar was literally around the corner. The next Thursday, I clocked out. The manager looked at the totally empty bar. Hey, are your friends coming tonight? He asked. They're usually 3 beers deep by now. I just smiled. Actually, they're on round 4 at the bar around the corner. That's where I'm headed to. The look on his face was pure static. I left and joined my crew. We had a great night. The only downside was the poor Thursday bartender at my place lost a huge chunk of her tips, but that was on the boss, not me. A couple of weeks later, the owner saw the numbers. He saw how much revenue was tanking on Thursdays. He reversed the rule. He said we could drink again. But it was too late. We had already discovered the other bar had cheaper prices, a better vibe, and we had made friends with their staff. So thanks, boss. You didn't just ban us from drinking. You gave us a whole new home. Story 7. You want my detailed medical info to approve my time off. Are you absolutely sure about that? A few years ago, I worked in an office with some truly awful rules. One of the worst was about paid time off. Yes, we could take it, but management demanded a detailed explanation of why before they would even think about approving it. Coworkers were constantly getting rejected. The project deadline is more important than your niece's birthday. Do you really need to attend your mother's cousin's funeral? It was toxic. People quit over it. To make it worse, every request had to be signed by 2 people, your department head and the HR manager. They were both terrible. The department head was a power-tripping slimeball, let's call him the tyrant, and the HR manager was a total nightmare. You only got guaranteed approval for 2 things, a court summons or a true medical emergency, and even then they demanded your personal details. I'm pretty sure it was illegal, but that's just how it was. Then I had a real emergency. A psychiatry appointment I couldn't miss. My anxiety and PTSD meds had stopped working. I was in a really bad place. I booked the earliest appointment I could get. I submitted the PTO request to the tyrant and the nightmare. Since it was extremely personal, I only gave them the minimal details. They rejected it. Both of them wrote back, "Company policy requires full details of your medical visit." The tyrant even pulled me into his office to scold me. "You know the rules," he snapped. "Why are you wasting my time?" I went back to my desk. I was furious. My hands were shaking, and then a cold, clear thought cut through the anger. I could get my revenge by following their own stupid rule to the letter. I messaged them back, "Are you absolutely sure you want the full details of my visit?" They both responded, "Yes, the policy requires it." I made them confirm it in writing, then I complied. I submitted a new PTO request, and I gave them the complete, unvarnished, horrifying details they demanded. I wrote about the urgent psych appointment. I wrote about the need to be seen immediately because I'd been having thoughts of self-harm. I wrote about my PTSD from a terrible history in the foster care system. I wrote about what my foster parent allegedly did to me. I wrote about how I turned to substances to cope as a teenager. And I wrote about how I ended up in the hospital after a very dark episode. I screenshotted everything, and I forwarded the entire request to several of the company's top executives. I explained that my previous request had been too brief, and I just wanted to ensure this one met corporate standards. 4 minutes later, a notification popped up, "Approved." I went about my day feeling a strange mix of relief and grim satisfaction. Curiously, neither the tyrant nor the HR nightmare came out of their offices for the rest of the afternoon. The next morning, I was summoned to the VP's office. He was there with another senior manager and a lawyer. He asked me to explain the awful email they had all received. I told them the simple truth. I needed time off for a personal medical issue. My first request was rejected. The tyrant yelled at me, so I resubmitted with the level of detail they demanded in writing. The VP apologized for everything I'd been through. He credited me extra paid days off, and he said the company would be completely rethinking its PTO policy. That same morning, I received written apologies from both the tyrant and the nightmare. The tyrant was so terrified he brought his to my desk in person. I think the lawyers made him. After that, they both did everything humanly possible to avoid me, which was perfect. Later that day, a company-wide email went out. A policy change. Medical reasons no longer required invasive, detailed explanations. I left that job 6 months later for a much better one. The appointment went well. I started a trauma support group. I met my partner, and things finally started to get better.